we're back. I think that I've gotten the two easiest topics to talk about so far today.
That's not everyone's point of view.
So this chapter we're exploring is sex.
Sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
We're just going to sing and dance because, you're not supposed to talk about sex, and you're definitely not supposed to talk about it on stage in front of thousands of people. So, what does sex and sexualness have to do with being you? Christopher?
Good question. This is one of my absolute favorite topics. And
I know, I'm so glad you're here.
It's really interesting because I was talking with Simone Millicis, some of you may remember from earlier in the program. And we're great friends, and we'll regularly catch up and have a drink and have a little chat. And the conversation quite often turns to sex. And she said one of the things she likes talking to me about it the most is I don't have a point of view.
Yeah.
And I always give her permission to explore whatever she wants to explore and do whatever she wants to do. So in terms of how this relates to being you, that's what I see it as. Whatever floats your boat, whatever blows your hair back. As my mother would say, there's an ass for every seat. Whatever is fun for you sexually, whatever you enjoy, whatever you want to play with and explore, from my point of view is, as long as there's consent, is okay.
Yeah.
And there's no getting it right. So in terms of being you, what works for you sexually and somebody else, who can say?
Yeah. And a lot of the chapter starts with sexualness, which is the energy of the orgasmic energy. And I know as a kid, I had so much of it that I was called a slut. I was just so judged for having that amount of sexualness going through my, everything. And so you're taught to turn it off and not talk about it, and definitely don't play in the realm of it. And so I love that you're bringing it to light and encouraging exploration.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't always have to do with copulation either, so.
Not at all. Yeah, no. I think the parts about it that don't have to do with copulation can be some of the more interesting parts. Exactly like you said, how much of us as children were these total alive sexual beings that everywhere we went and everything we did was almost like it was at your fingertips. It was like everything you touched came to life. And
yeah.
And then we get to this age where it's oh God, everyone's going to call me names, or I'm going to be seen as strange, or no one's really telling me if this is okay, or I see my parents and my family and what they choose, and you turn it into this thing. And you ask Chris about what's it got to do with being you, and it's a journey. It's this thing now where with the tools of access and so much about what Dane talks about in the book, it's you get to rediscover what this truly is for you, like it was when you were a child, without having to cut any of it off or stop any of it, and truly go on a journey of discovery of what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of you just recently did a telecall with Gary on
lust.
It was called what?
When lust turns to love, where does the sex go?
Yes. And it was so phenomenal, and one of the conversations that came out of it was about lust. And can you talk about that, with your very being and the lust, and how you can have more of that to increase basically being you?
Yeah, well, the mantra of Access is all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And to me, lust has all of those qualities. It is glorious, like a flower bursting into bloom. It has that enthusiasm for living. It has an ease to it when it has that orgasmic energy that Dane does talk about in the book that he starts out. He very clearly makes the delineation between that copulation is putting the bodies together, and then the energy of sexualness is this orgasmic energy of healing and kindness. And that all has this beautiful ease to it.
Yeah.
And joy as well, because in joy there is so much peace. And to me, all of those things are contained in lust. And it's interesting because if you've been around Access for any length of time or done any of the classes, we've identified these energies that are elementals, as we call them, and discovered that lust is, in fact, like gratitude, and so many others, an elemental energy that if we're willing to have it and use it in our lives, we can live beautifully.
Yeah. My body's starting to tingle. Anyone else's? But you're not supposed to have that, you know. Pock and pod. Sarah, what about you?
Well, I just running off what Chris said, like that lust energy and where it's actually something that can attract anything into your life. Like it's almost like this energy of like attraction, like a magnet that draws everything into it. And
It's creative, isn't it?
yeah, like you know the need and tug energy Gary talks about in the book The Place. To me, that's the energy of lust. This thing where you can, you know, project this energy out into the world and almost just bring anything into you. Everything is attracted to it. Everything wants to be around it. Like you look at, and you know, I love in the book as well when Dane talks about sexualness and how animals have it and how nature has it and how children has it, because they don't have a point of view about it being weird. Like you hang out with horses for any amount of time or animals and you're like, I want to give you anything. Like, what do you want from me? Like anything that I can give to you, I'll give to you, because they have that in their world.
It reminds me, like, do you remember being a kid sitting in the back seat of the car with an ice cream? And invariably your parents looked back and saw that you were wearing the ice cream, essentially, because you were having so much fun.
Yeah.
Enjoying it and eating it, and it ended up
Everywhere.
everywhere.
In you and on you.
And then we learn to have good manners and not enjoy life to that extent. But there is this, as kids, even if it was for an ice cream, there was this lusty enthusiasm to enjoy every ounce of that ice cream.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, have you ever had dinner with that friend who their wine glass always looks like 8 people have been drinking from it because they don't hold it politely. They end up like fondling it in every which way. And my suggestion is those are some of the people that you might consider playing with.
And maybe if they secretly like start licking the plate and stuff like that,
Exactly.
as well, they enjoy every morsel of everything they get to taste.
One of the energies that comes up a lot is like also that hedonistic energy of orgasmic living, and like Chris is touching the chair right now. I don't know if you can see, but like really truly allowing every single thing to contribute to you, and that you can receive it, and the joy of it, and the texture and the touch and the feel and all of the senses. And so much, I think, oftentimes that is one of the things that's so different about you. Like this reality doesn't empower you to be that.
No, they want you to be neat and proper and sit politely and quietly. And if you're too engaged with the things around you, you're obviously not paying attention because you aren't focused. And, but again, how much, like, to me, like dancing, like singing, sex is one of the things that our body has as a natural capacity to express and experience joy. Like how, as you say, the feel of the arm of the chair and the carving in your hand, the sensation of your clothes against your skin. All of them are experiences that we can receive and enjoy. And be the sluts we're here to be, really.
You've also, like, I love your outfit today, by the way.
Thank you.
Chris, you've been changing a lot, and it's so interesting too, as like you embrace more of this energy, you're also changing everything that you wear. So like this collar has this nice, sexy thing going on. What have you noticed, like what have you been demanding of you with regards to this area?
Well, I just got out of a marriage.
Yes.
And my husband had 2 pairs of shoes. One was brown and one was black. And if I were wearing shoes that were maybe a little more colorful, he wouldn't leave the house with me. And I realized how much I turned myself down to be married and how much that killed our sex life.
Right.
So in becoming single, I've just gone, fuck it. I'm going to wear whatever the hell I want, be who I actually am, and have a bloody good time.
Are you having any fun?
I'm having a lot of fun.
We kind of want to hear more about it, don't we? What about you, Sarah? How do you use all of these energies in the creation of whether your life, your body, your business?
Well, I think you've got to be willing to, what Chris was talking about, where you can involve everything in, like everywhere you're willing to have sex or sexualness as an energy, it's like, it's the orgasmic, creative, those 6 or 7 different energies that are involved in it. Like if you were willing to have your business and have sexualness with your business, your relationships that you're in, but your body just on a day-to-day basis as well. Like, we spoke about that, the energy of lust as well. Like receiving all of that is also going to probably make you a lot more money in your business too. Like where those places are where, and I loved what Chris talked about with, touching the chair and having all of these things and then linked it to sex. Like how many people even draw a line between those two things? Like sex is put over here as this thing that you kind of do in the dark and it's for a reason. Like
turn the lights off.
Yeah, it's or turn them on, whatever your preference is. But it's this thing you do.
If the lights are off, how do you find the keys to the handcuffs?
That's what I say. That's what I say.
But you're doing it to keep a person or to get a person or to make a baby or something. Like it's never just this thing of like, I first heard Gary say, what if it was like a game of frisbee? Like, do you want to go play frisbee? Like who does it from that place where there is no judgment and it is two bodies? And that's where you get to start not looking at the body in front of you from that place of like, is this person fitting this mold of looking the right way? And I know for me, I was actually sitting in class today looking around the room and thinking how much I used to limit the people that I would look at in that way. Like, would I have sex with this person? It was a very small box or narrow window of people that I would choose. And it wasn't a choice. It was like, that's because I thought that's what you did. You went for the good-looking person or the one that fit this bill. But
I thought you were saying you'd only have sex with them if they had a small box.
Well, depends what you're into. But also, like, where do we not have choice in it? Where do we think we have choice, but all the time we're going into the small box rather than the big box? Because big boxes are good too,
Yeah, all boxes.
Yeah.
Whatever size, shape, dimension,
I don't
color.
know what to say. You guys are just
Unruly.
you're too much. You're just too much. So,
well, just quickly on that too, like
I'm joking, by the way, I'm kidding.
How many of us came into this subject with like these expectations? Like I thought we'd get on stage and talk about certain things. I never should have, knowing the people and person that was sitting beside me.
Chris is the instigator.
Yeah.
You have nothing to do with it.
No, look how innocent I look.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's why I dressed like a princess today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you were saying, Sarah?
No, just that. Just like how many points of view and expectations do we have around this subject? Whereas if we were just willing to go for it.
Well, in facilitating around sex and having conversations with people, it is such a weird world. It is shocking to me constantly that for most people, they have equated sex and abuse because that's their frame of reference and that's all they know. They don't see what sex could be or can be and what a gift it can be. And I love that you brought up in bringing it into the realm of business or any area of your life. Like instead of relegating it to after hours, after dinner, after a few glasses of wine, this is the narrow time frame that it occurs. But sexualness, this energy that he does bring up so beautifully in the Being You book, is something you can infuse and imbue into absolutely every part of your life. And it is life-giving.
Yeah.
It is rejuvenating.
Yeah. And it's a vital energy, like you said, that you can use in anything. Like if you, one of my favorite ways to use it is like if you're calling like airlines or customer service or things like that, when they're so like dead on the other end of the line and you ask to like flow this orgasmic energy at them and turn them on and they just like all of a sudden are flustered and then
Confuses
start giving
the hell
you
out of them.
whatever
Yeah.
you would like.
I have a great story about that.
Please
If we
do
have, if we have a
tell.
moment, gentle,
We do.
gentle
We have lots
viewers.
of moments.
I was in line in Germany to leave the country. And usually when you're leaving the country, they want you gone pretty quickly. They don't really care to look at your passport for any great length of time. But the guy at customs was taking an enormous amount of time. It had been 30 minutes and 4 people had moved ahead. And there was 10 more. And I went, oh God. So I started pulling energy from the customs official. And I did this other thing that we learned how to do in Access, where I flicked on his 5 points. And if you don't know the 5 points, they're here and here, sort of near the lymph nodes on the outside of the armpits, at the solar plexus, and in the inner thigh just on either side of the groin. And I just asked this to turn on like a light switch and pull energy through those 5 points. Now, I did this to this man as I was in line, and he started blushing, and he started sweating a little bit, and the line kept getting faster and faster and faster. By the time I got to the front of the line, I handed him my passport. He looked at me, panicked, stamped it, and threw it back at me.
That's great. But part of what this energy will give you is this unstoppable. Like you become unstoppable if you're willing to be this orgasmic. So I love that story because that's what I had the page turn to.
Unstoppable and orgasmic.
Yes. Yes. So now I don't know what to say because you said what I was going to say.
Well, I mean, how much fun is sex if you have mapped it out?
Well, exactly.
This is the energy we're
Throw
being.
the book out.
You can't map it out.
No more sex by numbers.
Nope. No more sex by numbers.
So, how do you have sex, Chris?
How do I have sex?
Yeah.
Well, I usually start with a glass of wine
Okay.
and a conversation
Oh, yes.
and find out who
How
the
they
person
touch their
is.
wine glass?
Well, how they touch their wine glass does tell you a lot. Absolutely.
What
how
are
they
some,
are
like,
with their
red,
bodies.
What are some red flags?
What are some red flags? Well,
Okay.
you need to ask, do they actually like sex?
Not everyone does.
And do they like bodies?
Oh, that's a good one.
Are they, and I ask, are they going to judge me? Or are they going to be grateful? You know, that gratitude energy is key to sexualness. Because in the face of gratitude, there can be no judgment. It's one of those elementals that we talked about earlier that lust is as well. So that's what I ask for and
So
look
if
for
you
when
get
I'm having
like
sex.
a lot of no's, do you go there anyway because they're so?
Well, Megan, I have.
How'd that go?
I have gone there anyway. It's usually really hard on the body.
Yeah.
It's usually, you end up with kind of like a hangover, even if you didn't drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How does it go when you get yeses? When you get like the lighter?
Then usually it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it isn't paint by numbers. It is a question and an exploration and the adventure of finding out what's fun and works for you.
Yeah. How have you, Sarah? Please chime in.
Oh, no, this is great. I'm
Kind of like on my own over here. Getting red and flustered. Hot. My dress is coming off. Ah. Sarah?
Well, even like, I mean, you know, even the space in the conversation you guys are having now, like there's a lot going on, but to perceive people in the room and to tap into the people online and their bodies as well, like how much is there in sex and sexualness that is like in between the words that are spoken? Like this place where you can have a space and a peace within yourself. Like how often does it get to sex if you've gone through the glass of wine or whatever the lead up was, and then it's just like becomes this real like get it done or panic or something like that? And how many times in our lives do we have that? And there's two things really, like where can we invite more of that stillness and quietness into it, but also the humour as well. Like I love how you guys have brought this element to it of laughter and being a bit embarrassed or a bit like, holy shit, how do I go, where do I go from here? Like what if that level of vulnerability, when you have your clothes off, you could be the same, where you're like, And with the other person, like especially if it's someone you don't know so well, you're oftentimes so worried about not making the wrong sound from the wrong place.
Right.
Or
So much judgment.
do you have another story?
No. No, but I love that you bring this up, because especially people who are interested in things like access, sometimes, especially if we've had anything to do with the metaphysical community, I'm just going to say it, gentle viewers, we buy this point of view that sex needs to be like
Deep
really
and meaningful and
perfect,
and
like-
we have these long, lingering looks in each other's eyes.
Just like that.
And you might as well be in a bloody coma.
With you, Chris, I don't know if anyone could ever be in a coma.
Like, what if it could be a whole lot of fun, no matter what that looked like? Yes, sometimes it might be a little slower, a little more tender, a little more, like as you said, the peace and the space of it. But it doesn't preclude going for it.
Yeah, it's like neither, and it's both. It's like having
Absolutely.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not wrong. Like the greatest joy and peace I could give anyone from sex, and Dane's book embodies this, as I say, is a space of no judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get tied up in leather and spanked, and that is fun for you, as long as the other person is down for that, go for your life. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be candles and rose petals.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, even when you've been in a relationship for a long time, and then you start to think, oh, I'd love to try these different things, and then also, like, how often are you like, oh, I couldn't dare to expose that part of myself where there's a curiosity in my world that maybe was dormant, or maybe it was always there but you've hidden, or whatever that is. And also having the strength and vulnerability to talk to the person you're with and say, hey, would you be down for the whips and the handcuffs or whatever else to try it, and to have that humour and that space with the person to be willing to try anything, I guess.
Yeah, well, and you hit it on the head, I think, with vulnerability. You know, that's one of the, in Access, we talk about those 5 elements of intimacy, and that is key. Like, how much vulnerability does it require to actually say something to someone or ask for something that you think they might reject?
Or think you're weird, or think like, oh shit, like who is this person that I've been spending all these years with, and now they want to start doing some crazy stuff, like.
Crazy.
Yeah. Or, and what if it's the other way? And what if that was an invitation in their world to be like, wow, I didn't, like how many people get into a relationship and think, this is it now? You know, we have sex on Wednesdays and Fridays and like whatever
Because you
that
wash
is.
the sheets on a Thursday.
Yes. The thing that came up on the last segment too was like, oh my God, I can't even keep my train of thought going. So many visuals. And
I know, I was going to say, I can see
Yeah.
the myriad of pictures
like,
going through your
there's a bunch
head.
of perverts out there.
There are a lot of
A
perverts
lot of perverts out there. And the room in here is now awake. They've been like getting their
I
bars
knew this
run.
would wake them up.
All
I
of a
knew
sudden
this
they're
topic
like
would be-
laughing and paying attention. So I don't know what I was going to say. Never mind.
Doesn't matter what we say, they get the energy.
Yeah.
Because it's what we be.
Yeah, and it's not the words, just like with sex. Imagine if it could be this.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you were willing, like say you're with someone who has not ever heard of this, they haven't read the book, they don't know these tools, like you actually get to be the leader of that. You get to be that vulnerability. You can lower your walls and barriers and be the space that invites them to maybe experience something they've never experienced with their body.
Well, as Dane says, when at the start of this chapter on sex, and you know we have these little video interludes where Dane's reading parts of the book, and he says, the most seductive thing you can be is look at someone with absolutely no judgment.
Yeah.
That's really it. It does not matter what you do and how the mathematics occur, the geometry of what
Body
goes
parts,
into
yeah.
what
The
orifice.
angles and the.
Yeah, get creative, have some fun. But
Stretch.
all of that is better. No, yes, stretch first.
Definitely stretch.
Maybe after.
But
Hydrate.
During? You take a break?
But
Water break?
Sure.
none of that is all that relevant. What really is, if you want the energy of sexualness to be there and have a good time, is there to be no judgment.
Yeah.
And there can't be judgment in allowance.
Yeah. Any other stories you want to tell? Like, we've got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Well, now I'm on the spot.
Well, what about those times also when, because we've talked a lot about the sex part of this chapter, but it does talk a lot about these energies, right, and the different ways that we are with them and the ways we be with them. Like, is there anything else for you guys that you have or that you go to when you want to have that feeling of the orgasmic energy, but maybe, obviously there's a lot of things you can be doing, but just to also find those places in the world that you can have that without it necessarily being with another person?
Yeah, for me, those energies that they listed, which is now I threw the book down so I can't read them, that was actually never included in a lot of the sex before I found access, like the healing, nurturing, caring. It was just putting body parts together. Yeah. So to have that energy as well with my body, like my body always had that, but then to have that with another body, but to have it in every aspect of life and living, like that orgasmic joy of having a body and being here on planet Earth and getting to eat the ice cream and touch everything. Like, this is why you have a body. It creates the joy of embodiment. And if you have cut that off, like Dane talks about it, one of the reasons why he was so depressed is because he literally had cut all of that off. So how much of everything is about like turning all of this energy on? And yes, you can,
follow through,
use the whips and chains if you like, or
not.
Whatever, or not. But it's like, if you don't have those energies, that's not going to be fun anyway. And if you don't have those energies, nothing is much fun.
I remember when I was a little kid, every time my mother had a dinner party, in the winter in particular, everyone's coats got thrown on the spare bed. And I remember as a little boy, I must have been 6 or 7, some of the coats might have been fur-lined or something. And while the adults had the party, I would go and get naked and jump in the pile of coats because I loved how it all felt on my body.
Yeah.
And there was actually such an innocent joy in it, but it was total sexualness.
Yeah.
Like, what if we could still have and be that? And every morning when you got dressed, it was because that's how the clothes felt on your body.
Yeah. Yes.
You doing all right, doll?
I'm good.
We got 10 seconds. We've nearly made it.
9, 8. Thank you guys. You've been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
It was
And
a
I
great
hope-
and tough topic.
Hey, it was fun.
It was fun.
Thanks, guys.